So when we talk about women investing or women top earners, women on the board, women leaders, we have this debate still on whether or not we should still be discussing that gender inequality or that lack of equity that we have acquired within this society. And it just still baffles me that even on LinkedIn just recently, I did a post about me and my gorgeous friend and now project partner in this, my good friend Kim McGinley from Vibe Finance, which I'm sure many of you know. We're running a Women in Finance retreat, and it still baffles me that people have actually commented on the scenes or behind the scenes that this is a sexist event and that we shouldn't be putting on an event that's just for women, because this industry, like for example, the industry I'm in, like finance and mortgages, apparently we've got nothing to worry about. Apparently there is no discrimination. And I'm like, am I living under a rock or is everyone else? Because I don't have all the numbers and I don't have all the stats, and I'm not going on a hunt and a scavenge to like point companies out and to point people out. But I do have to say that sometimes, regardless of what the statistics say and regardless of what some of the numbers that are produced may what story they're telling, regardless of those, it's a feeling that you carry, like only when you're a woman and you're in an industry that is predominantly male dominated. I don't need to justify my feelings with a statistic. I don't need to say, there are only 43% of women in the industry, and therefore, like, it doesn't have to be backed up by a specific number, because only people on the inside and the women that are actually feeling it know what that feels like. Do you feel me? Is everyone feeling me listening to this right now? Do you understand what I'm actually saying? That, I could come out to you with a statistic every single week on the show about what it is that women are suffering in the industry of property, finance, and construction. But that's what this show's about. This show's about bringing out the women, the real stories of what's going on in the industry. And there has been a lot of positivity. Like, this show is about lifting women's voices, lifting their awareness, bringing them into the spotlight and highlighting the wonderful work that it is that we are doing. We're not here to shame and bash everyone else who's not doing it. We're not here to shame and bash men. We're not here to basically, other than, like, again, I shouldn't have to justify what we're here to do. Like, I shouldn't have to explain myself where I'm finding myself explain. Like, when I've said to people, I've got a podcast. Like, that's interesting. What's it called? The Money Honey. Oh, that's clever. I like that. Can I come on the show? And, when it's a man that says that, like, can I come on the show? Like, the first thing I say is, like, what's your narrative and what's your story? It's not like, no, you're a man, you can't come on the show. But I've said, the show is mainly about highlighting the success of women in these industries and the wonderful work that they're doing. So it's only for women then? Why aren't you allowing men? And I'm like, I shouldn't have to justify my podcast where I'm trying to celebrate women and I am creating a safe space for women to come along. And for some women, this is the first public speaking or front-facing, camera-facing experience that they never had. Like, there's a lot of women behind the scenes in mortgages and finance and in construction and in property who are so damn good at what they do, but their story is untold. And I've created this space for women to come and tell it. So, no, I'm not apologising for having a women's only event. I'm not apologising for that. I am here to celebrate the talent that we have in this industry. And so with that being said, I have invited a very talented woman in the property sector who is outstanding at the work that she does in the property space. She is not only a phenomenal friend that I get to share my time with. I don't, if you follow me on social media, I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of active friends that we don't like do a girly brunch every week. And, I have a lot of friends that are dotted about the place and dotted around all over the world, but we don't have a groupie that I see every day. Do you know what? Because that's every day what I do is I work. I work a lot, and my work connections have become my friends, right? So I spend a lot of time, if you see me like on the dance floor or in Albania, or you see me go to Cannes, yeah, I'm going for work, but I'm surrounded by friends. And I'm really grateful by, just what this industry has brought to me and my life, because we do work a lot. It's nice to be able to work with people that you know, like, and trust. So yeah, to the friends out there, of course, I love you, but we all know how life gets busy and our diaries just don't coincide when we've got so many work engagements in the way. It was more of a joke, I do have a lot of friends that are like close friends. My circle has definitely got smaller the older I've got, and that is done intentionally, and that is done on purpose, because it's about, vibing on the same energy as people. I'm not the same person I was at school. I'm not the same person I was at uni. So everyone's life has changed in different ways. So I'm happy to be sharing with you someone who's come into my life recently just through networking, particularly. Again, you may have seen, if you follow me on social media, particularly through the Savoy's networking groups. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Sophie Foote, from Rooms at Southampton and much more. Like, that's her company name, Rooms Southampton, and she'll be telling us all about that. But my God, like, every time we go out, I'm like, what, you bought a beach, and what, you did this, and what, you're a scuba diver? So like, she has got so many interesting attributes and talents, and I can't wait to share her story with you. Hi, Sophie, how are you doing?
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you for that lovely introduction as well. I think you're so right. Like, we're so busy, aren't we? That it's so nice to find little networks that you really vibe with. Because the first networking events I went to, I'd definitely be in the minority. There'd be like me and another woman in the room. But things like Savoy's, like, we do need to shout them out because they're about equality, aren't they? They bring really interesting people into the room. And that's where we met. And we have a lot of fun together when we go to the events.
We absolutely do. Yeah, I know loads of people point that out. They're like, Rose, like, you're always at these events, like, what's going on? And yeah, it is a really empowering networking group, both men and women. And they do really try to empower women to take up that space in a room and to not feel intimidated and to not feel shy and to really like own their own. But it's not always like that, is it, Sophie? When you go into those networking events and perhaps you are in the minority, how does that feel? And how do you navigate that? How do you actually handle yourself in those situations?
I think that everyone feels nervous before going into their first networking event. Everyone's been through it before. Like, you walk in and you see people confidently having conversations. That doesn't happen naturally for most people, I think. So just knowing that it's hard for everyone, just rip off the plaster and just go for it. Some people might have a small gin and tonic before they go in. But what I've done now, and I always walk into a networking event and feel like I need to speak to everyone. But what I focus on now is building a couple of good conversations. Pick one or two people at that entire event. You don't have to get around everyone, and really just get to know them and just chat. And for me, networking events and, monthly business events and things like that you might go to, it's more about gently building the relationship than doing business on day one. I don't think anyone has ever done business at a networking event where they say, here's my card, I'll take your card, let's do business tomorrow. It's about getting to know that person, getting to know their network, and kind of mutually starting to recognize each other and building the know, like, and trust, isn't it? That's just so important.
100%. I think that's some very good top tips there early on into the show. Um, I completely agree with you, Sophie. I think it's very important that people understand how networking events can be overwhelming, and they can be. There's a lot of people in a room, and you're like, how on earth am I supposed to be speaking to everybody? But you're quite right. You're not supposed to speak to absolutely everyone. Just speak to one person, get some really good engagement, build relationships. That's what it's all about. But what about the female aspect? Right? So obviously, a lot of women feel intimidating going into a room, maybe if it's accountants or estate agents or lawyers, or people in property, and it can be male dominated. Have you got any top tips of how you prepare? And you might do it naturally now. You probably don't even recognize that you're doing it. But, if a woman is fresh into the industry or never been out into these networking groups and she knows that there could be that divide, how would you mentally prepare and physically prepare for an event like that?
I think you really have to realise that this is going to sound a bit cringy, but you are your superpower. Like, being your authentic self is the best thing you can do. It turns out to be the easiest thing you can do because you're not talking rubbish, you're not talking corporate bollocks or anything like that. You're just being you. And for me, I kind of, I walked into my first property networking event. It was mostly men. I was like, right, I need to speak in a really corporate way and, be like these people. But over the years, I've just gone in and I'm like, hey, I'm Sophie and I bought a beach and I'm a scuba diving instructor. And people are like, what? And that's how they'll remember me. So just think about your life experience and just bring it in. If it's not to do with property, doesn't matter. It's what people will remember you for. Like, some people who are memorable to me, there's like a really young guy, 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿𝐫𝐿, who went to the 𝐸 event, who was talking about social media. And he's like, I'm 18, I've just finished school, this is what I'm going to do. And it's like, you're really interesting. Or, Roz, she wears bright yellow and she does social media. Or, �𝐿𝐫𝐿𝐫, who's a mum who has really interesting family values. And yeah, just all these really interesting people who they're not talking rubbish. They're not trying to join in with your conversation about commercial to residential valuations. They're saying, this is me, this is what I'm bringing, and just do you. And some people will vibe with it. Some people will love you and come back to you and chat to you at the next event. And some people, it might not be their vibe, but that's fine. Like, you don't need to please everyone. You need to niche into what you love doing, what you're passionate about doing, and people will see that passion and just be drawn to it. And if they're not, that's okay. But if they are, they're really going to click with you, I think.
100%. Yeah, Sophie, I agree with you. I think networking is more about finding your people and finding that person that you vibe with. And if you are, like, my top tips as a woman going into a male event, it's just little things like, for example, arriving a little bit extra early just so that you can like find your bearings. Try not to arrive alone if you can avoid it. I mean, we've all heard like, a lot of our events are happening in like Mayfair and things like that, right? And even in Mayfair, I don't live in London, but I'm hearing that there's a lot of like robberies and a lot of like muggings on the street, not from people from the event, but from like London in general. So as a woman traveling on her own, and by the way, I'm often traveling, like you said, in bright yellow. So I'm not difficult to miss. So if I'm walking down the street, be it Mayfair or any other area of London, I'm quite self-conscious before I've even got to the event. I'm really nervous and I'm actually quite frightened that I'm wearing yellow, I'm wearing heels, and I could be vulnerable, I could be attacked and like can't save myself. So I try to arrive, like, top tip, I know it costs a bit of extra money, but if you do get a train into London, get a cab to the venue. Try not to like just hop on and off trains and tubes and things like that. Try and get an Uber or a black cab and get yourself safely to the venue. If you are traveling late at night and you're trying to save that 20 quid from the taxi, just so that you could jump back onto the tube, don't jump on the tube at 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock at night or even 10 p.m. Like, try and, again, grab a cab. Like, I had to get back from Westminster once all the way home, and I planned it very last minute. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've just realised I'm in Westminster. This was after we went to the House of Lords.
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember? And
yeah,
it was such a great event. So I'm outside Westminster, by Big Ben, and I was like, oh no, I have to get a couple of tubes back before I can get home, and then a train. So oh my gosh, I spent £180 grabbing a taxi from Westminster all the way back to Hitchin, Hertfordshire, which was a lot of money, but my safety comes first. And so it's just like these little things, and also knowing like who's in the room in advance. So like network before you network, right? We do this, don't we, Sophie? Yeah. Is there anything like that you do?
Yeah, I was going to say it's like pre-networking, where you can put on your social media, oh, I'm heading to this event, who else is going to be there? And then people just say, yeah, and you can kind of start getting to know them before the event. And then you can kind of clock them and get a friendly face if you really don't know anyone. I always try and bring people to events as well. Now that I've got a few events that are more like established, I'm like, hey, do you want to come? Maybe I can introduce you to people. And it's so nice, again, traveling with someone or sharing a hotel. Definitely
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, that's a great way for women to kind of think about these things before going to an event. Because again, there might be men that are also, you know, a bit nervous and hesitant, but I don't feel like they need to look out for their like aware, like they don't have the same pressure on,
Yeah.
or you know, I think so anyway. So yeah. So anyway, moving on from that, then I would love an intro from you, and for you to tell us all what you do and who you are, and yeah, because we didn't do that at the beginning. We just went straight in for it. So tell us, who is Sophie?
Okay, so my background is scuba diving. So I left school and had a gap year and just wanted to do something completely different. So I found this gap year organisation and said, send me somewhere just really challenging, really different. And they said, okay, we're either going to send you to West Africa or East Malaysia. I was like, fine. And so they sent me to East Malaysia for 3 months to teach English. So I arrived there, got put in a school, got given accommodation, and just had the best time teaching English for 3 months, which was amazing. And then I ended up doing a bit of diving, meeting a load of diving instructors, moving in with 3 of them and staying for an entire year and getting a job in a dive shop. And I was just living my best life. I was working in the dive shop during the day. I was living with my mates. I was, you know, going out with the guests in the evening. And it was just every day, you know, different, learning the language, eating interesting food, visiting rainforest. Like, it was such a great adventure. Came back to uni where I studied anthropology, and each summer I had about 3 months off. So the first summer I went to Vietnam and got a job there. The next summer I went to Thailand and got a job there. Then I came back and did a master's in Southeast Asian economics, politics, and anthropology, because I fell in love with that whole region and just wanted to dig into its history and stuff. So I did a master's in SOAS in London. Then I met my husband and I said to him, like, I'm not done yet. I'm not done with this adventure. So I got a job in Fiji for 6 months, teaching people to dive who were on a volunteering kind of thing. That was a very remote island. We were just delivered there for 3 months and picked up 3 months later by cargo ship. It was amazing. And then I said to him, I want my own dive business. Like, I've been working for other people and living the beach lifestyle, but not saving any money. So do you fancy starting a business with me? And he said, yeah, okay. So we did a lot of research, went on divecenterforsale.com where there's loads of stuff. And there was a bit of land for sale in a tiny island in North Sulawesi, Indonesia. And we looked into it and did loads of research. And it's in one of the best diving destinations in the world. It's in the Coral Triangle, which is between the Philippines, Indonesia, and Australia. And it's the highest marine biodiversity in the world in that triangle. So you've got massive mammals like dugongs, whales, dolphins. Then you've got tiny pygmy seahorses and like weird sea slugs that are very unusual and rare, and everything in between, like turtles, sharks, amazing fish. So we were like, that'll be a good place. So we went to visit. We spent a month in Cambodia on 2 dirt bikes, just exploring, did a bit of free diving in Thailand, and then ended up in Indonesia. And we fell in love with it. You know, you get on a plane, then a car, then a boat, and you just arrive at this beautiful island. And so we then spent the first month figuring out, right, how do we start a business in Indonesia? What permits do we need? What visas do we need? How much is this venture going to cost us? Costing it all up, going around all the shops, like how much are bathrooms? How much are cottages? What permits do we need? What lawyers do we need? We found an Indonesian partner. And eventually we were like, this could work. You know, we found all the processes, we figured it out. Let's get some investment. So we found some investment, basically family and friends, and bought the beach, which had hectares of jungle, 2 beaches, mango trees, pineapple trees, coconut trees. And we just built for 6 months. And we got there in September. And we basically had to open in April because that's when the season started. So I was on the mainland building websites and getting social media and trying to build this online thing, while Simon, my husband, was on the island rapidly learning Indonesian and getting local people in to help build. And I started getting bookings for a resort that didn't exist yet. So I was like, Simon, we need to get this done by April. And we basically built 8 cottages in the jungle and on the beach. We had a restaurant in the middle overlooking the ocean. We had a dive centre, 2 boats. We were completely off grid. So we had a freshwater well, which went up to a big water storage thing at the top of the hill, which came down to deliver water to all the rooms and the stuff, the restaurant. We had 2 boats. We had 2 generators for electricity. So it was mad. We just built it from the ground up. And then, yeah, we had our first guests in April, and it was just amazing. It was just incredible. It was really hard work because we basically lived with our guests. We ate every meal with them. We took them diving, but slowly we built a team. So by year 5, we had 11 Indonesian staff. We had a team on the mainland of like drivers and suppliers who would shop for us for our supplies. And we had returning guests, which was amazing. My brother came and got married on the beach. We had our 2 kids out there, which was amazing. They all got adopted by our staff. So I'd wake up and the baby would just be gone. They'd be like, we'll take the baby today. And so my kids would be like just playing on the beach with coconuts and chopping things in the kitchen. And like my 2-year-old would be walking around with a machete. Very Indonesian. But after 5 years, we were like, right, we need to start thinking about our next move. And the kids need to go to school at some point, and we didn't want to be teaching them. So we thought, okay, let's see if anyone's interested in buying the business, and then we can head back to the UK and they can go to school in the UK. And a Belgian couple were really interested. They came out and they were like the opposite of us. They had a baby and they wanted to bring up their kids there. So we sold the business, moved back, and then the pandemic happened. So it was quite good timing selling the business then, because the flights stopped, the bookings stopped, and their business shut down for a good year or 2. So we definitely kind of left at the right time, because it was a scary time for all the resorts there, and anyone in that sector. But we did end up homeschooling our son for quite a while through the pandemic. We were like, great. But everyone had to do that. And yeah, since then, so we've been back about 5 or 6 years now. And 4 years ago, we started our property business. So I knew I wanted my own business again. You just can't really work for anyone else, I think, once you've been self-employed. And I found this franchise called Rooms, and they do the rent-to-rent HMO model, which is where you rent a house from a landlord on a commercial lease for a long time, and then you re-rent it out to your own tenants. And we've now got 17 HMOs, which are in Southampton and Bournemouth, nearly 100 tenants. And year 1 and year 2 were all about building the business. So we just worked our asses off for 2 years solid. And then year 3, we could finally take some time off. So year 3, I went cave diving in Mexico. I went to Vegas for someone's wedding, and we had a huge family holiday in Crete. So it was finally the payoff of, we've built a business again from nothing. We've, only just paid ourselves for a year or 2. And then year 3 really became the turning point of, okay, we can now cover the bills and have a bit of fun and invest ourselves and start looking at the future. So we're now just going into year 4 with that business, and we are growing. We're taking on more HMOs. We're looking at HMO conversions, and I'm investing in other areas as well. Is that a good introduction?
Oh my God. Like, what? Like, I just can't believe how much you've done. Like, yeah. I'm absolutely taken aback. I knew you said you bought a beach and you did scuba diving. I didn't realize you built a whole village and a resort, and you built a whole community and people, and like, wow, you had like a proper island life.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is mental. But I just can't believe. I thought we were just going to be talking about some HMOs and property. Like you really built a whole town, a whole village, and do you still
Yeah.
go back to it?
So we haven't been back since we left because it was the pandemic, and then we were just building this property business. But we're going back in October, and I can't wait because the kids were born out there. We left when they were 1 and 2, and they're now 7 and 9. And they've got distant memories of it. We've got loads of pictures and videos, but they're so keen to go back and really experience it. And they're big enough I can take them snorkeling now and climbing up the hill and trekking and hiking and things like that. So we're really excited for October.
Wow, that is absolutely epic. Like I can't imagine that kind of lifestyle. It's really like what a culture shock. And now you're building a property portfolio. Where in the UK exactly?
So in the South Coast, in Southampton and Bournemouth.
Lovely. And is that where you do mainly your HMOs?
Yeah.
Yeah. And is it just HMOs that you do? Do you do anything else?
No. So I've niched, as we were talking earlier. I think when you get into property, I was introduced to this rent to rent model, which is a great business model because you can, it's not a long purchase. You're literally setting up a rental agreement. So you can pick up properties quite quickly and then get them cash flowing quite quickly. So I was like, yeah, this is a great model. I just need to learn the entire thing and then repeat, which is what we've done. But within 6 months of getting into property, I heard about this thing called serviced accommodation. I was like, oh, well, I live on the coast. I could do this with some flats maybe. And then you hear about commercial conversions, and then you hear about, Airbnb and all these things. And someone quite early into my journey said to me, like, just niche. Like, you're doing really well, just keep going. If you're chasing all these shiny pennies and you're going from one thing to another, nothing's going to stick and you're going to neglect, the original part of the business, which I've seen a lot of people do and go in many directions. So yeah, I just do HMOs. So we've got the rent to rent business, and then we work with a team to do HMO conversions. So we introduce investors to them, and we do joint ventures where we do them as well, which is the model is basically buy a 3-bedroom house and then take about 8 months to convert it to a beautiful 7-bedroom, all ensuite luxury HMO. And because you're going from a 3-bed kind of bricks and mortar house to a 7-bedroom now commercial entity, the valuation goes up really high within that 12 months. So the original money you've invested, you can take quite a lot of that back out at the end. So I really like it as a model. So we're doing a bit of both.
Amazing. Yeah. So I completely understand the shiny penny syndrome because I think after spending so much time with people in property, I actually have now no clue what direction I want to take my property business into. Obviously, I've got the whole like home education, and I'm quite lucky that my family have always invested in property, but it's never been like for how we do property. Like it's never been for a business. It's been for more like a family retirement plan and inheritance for children. That's how Italians have always seen property. My family never did it for like investing with friends or getting friends to like donate 10k here and there, and then they like flipped properties. It was never like that. So I've got that home education now, experiencing all this networking with the actual property investors and the HMO people and the service accommodation. I'm like, wow, like there's just so much more to this. But yeah, now I'm exploring what route. And I know we spoke about HMOs, and if there was ever a HMO I needed to do, it would definitely be you, Sophie, that I would be coming for help on. I just don't know. I don't know what direction I'm going to go at the moment. We're exploring things with what capital we do have available. Looking at our own equity in the house. We're looking at what our financial advisor recommends. Because it's similar to yourself. My life completely changed as well since 2020. As you know, got made redundant. I started my own business. So really my priority has been building up like something stable for myself and like building up my whole career again from scratch, because it really burnt to the ground and it was non-existent 4 years
Yeah, but
ago.
you're
So
absolutely smashing it, Ros. Like, we met a year or two ago at networking events, and we've, seen each other and had so much fun at these events. And then I actually got to see you speak for the first time in April. And I was like, oh my goodness, you absolutely smashed it. You are such a good speaker. Like, you were entertaining, you were engaging, you were funny, you were educational. I was just like, yes, Ros, come on. I was just in awe.
yeah,
When you see a friend doing what they do best and you're like, yes, absolutely loved it.
that is weird actually, because I was really nervous about presenting in front of friends, because that's what you guys have become. I never came to these networking events to do business with you. Like, I never came, and I would know that you back to me. Like, I never felt like you were trying to sell me something or me trying to sell you something. And so I've just been growing a relationship with you all, with you, Athena, and the Savoy's gang. And I had not pitched my services to anybody ever. And then all of a sudden, I've just been doing what I've always done for a while now. But I think people are now like, oh, Ros, like, lately you've just blown up. I'm like, no, not lately. I've literally been doing this for I have been hustling hard. It's not happened overnight. But I think my friends and you guys are now starting to see me live in action. You've been following me for a while now, so it means that you'll get to see, obviously you didn't get to see my projects from 4 years ago. You're only seeing the ones that I've been doing for the last year. It's been an emotional experience trying to show my friends what I actually do, and it's not just for the shits and giggles that are on the dance floor, right? It is I'm actually business, and I'm so proud that you guys are proud and happy and cheering me on, and you were all so supportive. This was at the Girls in Property retreat that we did in Tring, that was hosted by Athena, and I can't be any happier than the people I'm surrounded by. So thank you for your support.
Really, and isn't it great to have that kind of tribe or group around you that is just going to support you and cheerlead you, and whether it's just a little comment on social media or a little share or supporting you at an event, it's just really lovely. That's the best bit about social media, I think, for me, the people and the connections.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always say to my clients. I'm like, you don't go networking to sell something. You go to build a community and friendships and to support one another. And there's no point you making an amazing reel, right, and posting that and then never meeting these people face to face. Because, for example, I was in Albania for a whole weekend with Savoy's and the 5D Club, right? And at this event, the whole weekend, there was property investors, developers, business owners. And I'm like, I have not created one reel since I've been here, but I am connecting with ideal clientele that my audience wants access to. So it's not like I'm necessarily pitching to the property developers and investors. It's that I'm building a network within this space because my clients want access to those kind of people. Now I can help them as well. So there was a property developer who was like, oh, I'm getting into some quite complex finance structures for my developments, and I'm getting a bit stuck now because you can't ask your mates for 10 grand anymore because they helped you with the 2 up, 2 down, and they invested 5k into the HMO. When you get into some really sophisticated stuff, and you've got lenders involved and senior debt and things like that, you really need to get sophisticated advice. And I was like, oh, I've got just the guy for you. And so it's not that I'm going there because I think everyone needs social media. That's far from it. Actually, the fewer the better, because not everyone can shine on social media and needs the whole start to end strategy or the done for you service, right? So for me, it's more about okay, this is my community, this is my crowd. How can I support them? How can I connect Sophie to someone that I know, and vice versa? So that's what all these events are about. But look, this has been already, I knew we wouldn't have time. I knew we wouldn't struggle, to fill the time and speak, because you and I, okay, give us a cocktail or two, we'll be there all night long. But I've learned so much from you already in just a short space of time, because these are the kind of things that we don't normally get to discuss on the dance floor, right? Or after. So it's been such a pleasure to have you. What would you like to leave so there's a lot of women in property and in finance listening to this, maybe lawyers, accountants. What's a message that if they remember anything from what it is that you stand for and what it is that you are on a mission for, what is it that you'd like to share with them?
I think I've always gone with the motto of do what makes you happy. Like, just go and do it. Go and enjoy yourself. Just be you, just be the authentic you, because the people that will go along with it and will vibe with it will just attach themselves to you and will be your tribe and your support and will be super loyal to you in everything you do. Yeah, just go for it and come and find me if you need any help with property, investing, finance, anything like that. Come and connect with me on Instagram.
I love that, Sophie. And I think absolutely, what can you lose from a connection, guys? Like, what is there? You've got everything to gain. If you connect to Sophie and you realise that actually, whether it's Southampton or the North, even if it's just a question about HMOs or something like that, I know Sophie, that's why I brought her to the show, is that although she's had a phenomenal background and lifestyle and, maybe you just want to ask her about the beach life and living the island life, I'm sure Sophie would be delighted to go take a trip down memory lane. But yeah, I think this is more to show you guys that, HMO, like, she's built her business. Sophie, you've built it since the pandemic. And like, that is a happen. You've transformed your life, changed your whole life, your whole kid's life upside down. Everything is different to what you already know. It's certainly different for your kids in comparison to where they came from. And that is exactly what is possible. You've built a portfolio in about 4 years, and it just goes to show how much opportunity there is in property. So I hope everybody, new listeners and already loyal listeners, I hope that from this podcast, you've been able to gain some inspiration about just how you can change your life completely, literally. Like, this is the extreme that I've been able to demonstrate to you, that from island life, from machete to mansions, you can absolutely grow a whole new life and build a whole new life and build a whole portfolio in such a short space of time, whether it's HMO or service accommodation or rent to rent or whatever strategy is that it is right for you. Like Sophie said, the biggest top tip is do your research, and niche down and make sure that you are specific in your strategy and you're not just chasing the shining objects. So in the show notes, I'll be sharing Sophie's social media handle. So if you follow her on Instagram, and of course, if you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up so that we can support Sophie and her message in reaching as many people as possible. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that this channel continues to grow and I can continue to empower female voices in this industry. So thank you again for listening. Thank you, Sophie, for being such a fantastic friend and guest.
Thank you.